Danny, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? How does it compare to Northern Ireland? How have you found it here?
My name is Danni Simpson. I am an Australian artist and I started doing art about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was working full-time still, and I ended up quitting my job, buying a ticket to Europe and moving over here. So I was actually meant to live in Holland, and I decided to come visit my granny. So my mum's actually from Belfast, and I got a mural job when I landed in Belfast, and that sort of led to about 4 or 5 other mural jobs when I was here, and I kept flying over from Holland to here. And then a few months later I decided to stay and met my partner who's from here, and 3 or 4 years later I'm still painting away in Belfast.
Amazing. And you said you have family connections to here. Do you think that's something important for you and kind of inspires you in that way?
Definitely. Like, it's a little bit of a weird thing. Like, my mum always finds it really weird that I've ended up living in the place that she was born, and she left here when she was 6 years old. So for me to have probably a little bit more of a connection now and know, like, when she came over here, I knew all the streets and where to drive, and she thought, oh, that's just so strange that you've ended up living where I'm from. But it's also nice to have that connection, and I've always obviously grown up and had a little bit of knowledge of the history of this place. But to sort of be involved in this new age of different murals that are coming in, it's a nice thing to be able to do.
And Belfast is not short of murals. It's an integral part of the history. Do you pull inspiration from that? Is that sort of part of why you've gotten into it yourself?
Well, Belfast is obviously a very colourful city, and you have your newer murals, and then you have your more traditional murals, which would stem back to anything sort of political. I try and put my mark on the city in a really positive, colourful and interactive way. And the whole thing for me is, when you walk down the street and you're going to work or you're going about your day, I want you to see the mural and be enlightened by it. I don't want it to be like a bad reflection. I just want it to be something that is positive and uplifting, maybe a bit funny or a bit tongue-in-cheek, or something that you can get involved in. So it definitely did inspire me in that way, and I've been really lucky landing here that Belfast is so understanding of the arts. I think you can go into some cities and they wouldn't actually see the value in painting a mural. Perhaps it would be heavily tagged straight away, or the council wouldn't invest money into actually using that as a way of telling the city's personality. So I have been really lucky to be involved in this sort of wave of new murals that are coming through.
And is there a budding, new artist community surrounded around murals and other street arts? Do you feel like you're an integral part of that? And how is that taking shape in the city?
There's definitely like a big community of artists. And like, when I first came here, I didn't know anyone apart from my granny. I had no idea. I was really lucky that I was, when you do one mural, you get someone who walks down the street and it's like, oh, I know someone who owns a studio or who's linked in with this mural, and you quickly become part of this little community of people who each have their own style and do different types of things, but all help. I think there's a lot of different places I've been as well where artists sort of feel like there's a competition, but it's not so much here. It's more so about, how can we all work together to make sure that we all can do the best, and for the community as well.
It sounds like you've integrated quite well. Again, kind of going back to that family connection, do you find some similarities, whether it's the crack or the sense of humor between here and where you grew up in Australia? And does that kind of feed into your sense of community here?
When I first came here, like, the biggest thing that stood out for me was that the people were so friendly. So as I said, when you're on the street and you're painting, people want to help you out. It's not even like, oh, I know someone who can do this, and then you don't hear from them. They're literally like, come with me right now and let me introduce you to them. So definitely there's like, I also feel from being an outsider in, people want you to come here and enjoy the city or the place, and also leave having a good experience. I think perhaps maybe after years of going through the troubles and that Belfast was never painted in a positive light. So to be able to come here and they want you to have a great time. You go through Cathedral Quarter and you go up to the bar, and after you've been there a few times, they'll know your name, they know what you want to order and all that sort of stuff. So it definitely feels like a small town, but it's a big city, and it's a nice vibe to have that.
Where do you pull your personal inspiration from? Are there certain artists that you look to that have sort of infused into your own style?
There's definitely like a lot of different artists that you'll be inspired by. Sometimes, you compare yourself against them as well, which can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. For me, my biggest inspiration is I enjoy traveling. So I enjoy going and seeing different places and seeing the different personalities. So you can see from a lot of my work, especially like the maps that I do, it'll be like an outline of the country, but I try and fill it in with all the people, the places, the things, the food, whatever makes that country or city the place that it is, sort of like the personality of it. So that's definitely a huge inspiration for me. But then, I find that you always will learn something off a different artist. So when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing, like no idea. And I used to like contact artists and be like, hey, can I like take you out for a coffee, and just so I can learn like what paint rollers you use or what paint brushes or what paint. And then you quickly learn some of their techniques and some of their styles, and you're not copying it, but it's just being able to bounce off and sort of learn from people who have already had those struggles, let's say.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great thing. Whenever you get into something and not necessarily knowing what you're doing, but you have some sort of goal in mind and getting there, that's got to be a great sense of accomplishment. Can you talk specifically about specific murals or work that you've done around the city?
So I've done quite a few and a lot of different types of things. So, you have your street art style of murals, which is really community based. They could be through Hit the North Street Art Festival, which is run by Seedhead Arts and Adam Turkington, and that's a really fun event where you'll have around 50 artists all down on the street painting at the same time, and it's really fun. You're all having a pint of beer, you're painting what you want to paint as well. So that one of the ones that I did was a G'day mural, which was right in the heart of the pandemic when I was feeling a bit homesick, and I was always doing these Northern Irish slangs, and that was a fun way of being able to put my touch and say G'day from Belfast. And then you have like your more commercial style of murals, and that's probably my bread and butter, where you're getting sort of paying for the roof over your head with that type of work, but you're working with brands and you're trying to tell their story, and they'll put their murals within pubs and cafes as a way to mix the story of the venue and the story of the actual brand into one with my art style. So it's quite a challenge because you're trying to like tell a number of different stories into one artwork. So for example, there was one in Boneyard, which opened during the pandemic as a way of being able to have like an outside venue, and it was through Hop House. So we wanted a way to be able to integrate the brand Belfast, Boneyard into one mural that people would come down, take their picture on Instagram, which is such a thing at the moment. Everyone wants to say they're out and about, and it turned out really well. So there's quite a few different ones that I've done.
And what are your plans moving forward? What do you have coming up?
So we just finished a big job in London, and then I'm actually off to Australia to see my family for about 6 weeks, which I'm really excited for, a bit of downtime. I think when you work so fast paced, I came off the back of multiple murals, the Christmas markets, then doing all these different murals in London, and that it'll be nice to switch off a little bit and sort of have time to get creative again, because you kind of lose that when you're just stuck doing admin and painting and not actually creating new ideas. And then when I get back, I've got a few murals in Ireland, down in Dublin to do, which is really exciting. It'll be a big one.
And probably something I forgot to ask from the beginning. I mean, how did you originally get involved in this and invested in this?
So when I was about 25, I've never done art before. I was very creative, but I was going through quite a tough time, and I was told that drawing would be a really good way of being able to switch my brain off. So I started doing mandalas at the beach, and they got bigger and bigger. And then people started stopping by saying, can I buy them? And like, they didn't actually buy them at the start, but it was nice. It was a nice feeling. And then I managed to get one mural when I was out in a bar one night, and he called me the next day and was like, yes, I still want you to paint it. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Have no idea how to do it, but I'll try. And it sort of progressed from there. I got a big job with the Commonwealth Games, which was in Australia, and it just rolled into one after the other. And that's kind of how I got involved in doing murals. I think you kind of have to jump in the deep end a bit.
And is that a focus of, maybe not the primary focus, but do you think arts have an effect on improving people's mental health and maybe getting them through some of those difficult periods?
Oh, definitely. Like, see, during the pandemic, and everyone was in their house and they couldn't socialize, and they had to work from home, and they were stuck in this little small bubble all the time. I did live Instagram mandala sessions, and people would jump on and they'd have the whole household all sit in their drawing and have it like on their, I don't even know how they did it, but they had it on their TV screen, all watching how to draw a mandala. People were saying it was just so nice to just be able to have that moment to look forward to during the week of just being creative. And these were people who aren't artistic. They just wanted something to sort of switch off and do. So it definitely does help in that way. It's always good to be creative and do something a bit, outside the box.
Well, Danni, it sounds like you've integrated well into Northern Ireland, and we're tremendously, obviously happy to have you here and contributing so much to the community. My last question just is, how hereish do you feel now?
Well, can you hear my accent?
Yes.
My accent's been destroyed. Look, I definitely feel like this is like my second home now. It's my home away from home, and I do feel, sometimes torn between what place is my base, because I feel like I've been really welcomed into the community here, and there's so many opportunities and exciting things to come. So I don't know what on a scale to rate it, but I think my accent says it enough.